A crisis of leadership. We've been talking about this all week. But what if there was some sort of outer space crisis? An alien invasion sounds crazy, perhaps, but then who thought we'd ever see the stock market swing 5% a day all week long?
Humanity could contact an extraterrestrial civilization within the next 100 years. That's what physicist Michio Kaku told The Guardian. But he also warned that deliberately advertising our existence could be a terrible idea, that tension hides a stranger possibility. Aliens capable of reaching Earth might not come for friendship or conquest. If aliens could reach Earth, why would they come here at all? NASA says there's currently no evidence that UAPs are extraterrestrial. So what could make an advanced civilization notice us in the first place? Why Michio Kaku says we should hide. The question isn't whether aliens exist, it's whether they'd bother to talk to us before they decide we're too small to notice. Let's talk about Dr. Michio Kaku. He has served as the Henry Semart Professor of Theoretical Physics at the City College of New York since 1984. He earned his PhD at UC Berkeley. This isn't just a pop science credential. He is a physicist who literally wrote the foundational work on string theory, a mathematical framework trying to unify all the forces of nature. In 2021, he told The Guardian that humanity could establish contact with an extraterrestrial civilization within the next 100 years. And get this, he also warned that actively advertising our existence is a terrible idea. Here's the contradiction. The same person predicting close contact urges us to stay quiet. An advanced civilization isn't necessarily evil, it's potentially dangerous through pure indifference. That's the distinction Kaku draws between hostility and something far stranger. He explains it through a comparison to wildlife. He suggests that a species thousands or possibly millions of years ahead of us might treat humanity the way we treat squirrels and deer in a forest. You don't hate them. You just don't build diplomacy with them. If aliens could reach Earth, why would they come here at all? You might assume they'd want cooperation or resources, but Kaku's hypothesis is that they might not need anything from us. The visit wouldn't be an invasion, it would be observation. And that changes everything about how we interpret the idea of being visited. He deliberately separates evil from indifference. To be dangerous through neglect is entirely different from war. But does this mean aliens have already arrived? Not at all. This is a hypothesis about motive, not evidence of arrival. It shifts the debate away from invasion fears and toward a harder question about our relevance in the universe. If a species is millions of years older, would it study us? Or would it simply move on without considering us intelligent enough to contact? Kaku's framework suggests the gap isn't cultural, it's temporal. A civilization that could reach us might operate on timescales where our entire history is just a single season. The real unsettling detail isn't that they might ignore us, it's that the technology required to cross interstellar space would make that indifference inevitable. Reaching another star isn't a matter of better fuel. It demands manipulating space, energy, or both, at scales that would place any visitor in a completely different category of existence. So, what would that technological gap actually look like in measurable terms? The Kardashev scale and alien tech. The gap isn't measured in light years, it's measured in energy. And that number makes a civilization that can cross the galaxy something we have no frame of reference for. Dr. Kaku organizes civilizations by how much energy they command. A Type 1 species harnesses the total energy of its home planet. Think earthquakes, weather, all of it. Humanity isn't even there yet. We're what he calls a Type 0 or Subtype 1 civilization, still wrestling with fossil fuels and fission. A Type 2 civilization would capture the entire output of its star, perhaps by constructing a swarm of solar collectors around it. And a Type 3 spans a galaxy, tapping every star in it. Kaku explained this energy ladder in a public discussion, and the jump between levels is staggering. Each step up separates beings by tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands, of years of development. Now here's where it gets serious. He speculates that a species capable of reaching Earth could be at least 100,000 years more advanced than us. That's not just a random guess. It follows from the physics needed to cross interstellar distances without taking lifetimes to do it. The only theoretical shortcuts through space-time are wormholes, tunnels connecting two distant points, or warp geometries that compress the fabric of space itself. These aren't engines bolted to a hull. They are concepts emerging from Einstein's general relativity, which describes gravity as the curvature of space-time. And the energy required to stabilize one of those structures, it is roughly 10 to the 19th electron volts. Kaku refers to this as the Planck energy. Our most powerful particle accelerators don't even graze that. The entire global energy grid wouldn't scratch it. This is a mathematical solution written on a chalkboard, not an engineering blueprint. The object that shows up in our sky wouldn't be a slightly fancier rocket. It would be a monument to a physics we have not yet verified experimentally. Brian Greene, another physicist, underlined this exact distinction. He pointed out that a civilization might be billions of years ahead of us, or billions behind. This makes a simultaneous technological coincidence absurdly unlikely. If a second intelligent species emerged in the galaxy, they probably aren't peering through telescopes at the exact same moment we are. If they are here, their mode of travel is something we can describe mathematically, but cannot build, test, or independently reproduce. If a spacecraft reaches Earth using technology we cannot test, how could a photograph alone prove what the object is? The image shows a blur, a sudden turn, or a shape against the clouds. But the mechanism that generated the turn remains invisible. Watching a video of an object dart across the sky tells you nothing about the physics powering it. Before asking why aliens visit, we have to separate what witnesses or videos seem to show from what investigators have actually confirmed. What happens when the headline claims meet the official case files? Pentagon files. Unidentified doesn't mean alien. What happens when the headline claims meet the official case files? They shrink. Mach 20 sounds like proof, until you know the object's distance, size, sensor error, viewing angle, and atmospheric conditions. In a 2023 NBC interview, figures flew around that would make fighter pilots dizzy. Objects allegedly hit between Mach 5 and Mach 20, dropped 80,000 feet within seconds, and slid effortlessly between air and water. That's the excitement. That's the part that makes people lean forward. But here's the uncomfortable machinery behind the screen. To turn an object's movement across a video frame into miles per hour, you need range. You have to know how far away the thing actually is. Without calibrated range data, a gnat flying close to a lens can look like a fighter jet over the ocean. Parallax, sensor blooming, thermal distortion, these aren't cover-ups. They're just physics doing what physics does when pushed past its design limits. Take the famous Go Fast video captured by Navy pilots. At first glance, it looks like an anomaly skimming low over the ocean at mind-bending speed. But when scientists applied basic high school trigonometry to the on-screen telemetry, the illusion dissolved. The object wasn't flying at hypersonic speeds near the water, it was drifting at roughly 40 miles per hour at an altitude of 13,000 feet. It was almost certainly a weather balloon, drifting with the wind. The apparent speed was created entirely by parallax, the geometric illusion that happens when a high-speed jet camera tracks a slow object against a distant background. If an object's speed is calculated from a video without independently verified distance, is Mach 20 a measurement or an interpretation? Every military camera is an instrument with blind spots, gain settings, and integration times. It is not a transparent window into reality. When the NASA UAP independent study team dropped its final report in September 2023, it didn't lean into the mystery. It stated there is no conclusive evidence in peer-reviewed scientific literature pointing to an extraterrestrial origin. Most sightings contain too little high-quality data to draw any scientific conclusion at all. That phrasing matters. Too little data isn't a dismissal. It's like a doctor saying a blurry X-ray doesn't show a broken bone or a tumor, it just shows gray. Then came the bigger hammer. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, known as AARO, published Volume 1 of its Historical Record Report in 2024. After digging through archives, interviews, and sensor logs across decades, their conclusion was blunt. None of the investigated cases represented extraterrestrial or off-world technology. A ARO's report also explained why these rumors take root. For decades, highly classified U.S. aerospace testing, from U-2 spy planes to stealth prototypes and high-altitude reconnaissance balloons, was conducted in absolute secrecy. When pilots or civilians spotted strange shapes in restricted airspace, the military couldn't explain what they were seeing without blowing the cover on national security projects. Silence bred rumors, rumors bred mythology. Over 50 years, that secrecy crystallized into the popular belief that the government was hiding crashed flying saucers in desert vaults. Unidentified does not mean alien. It just means somebody didn't fill out the clipboard. Equating the two is the oldest logical shortcut in the book. It takes a gap in our notes and fills it with green paint. Yet people recoil from that distinction. They feel like saying, unresolved is bureaucratic code for we know but won't tell. Sometimes it's just that the radar tape degraded in 1974. A case can be annoying, weird, frustrating, and still have nothing to do with Alpha Centauri. Notice what happens to the narrative when you line the pieces up. You get dramatic testimony first, then basic geometry, then institutional boredom. Most people want the story to end at the testimony because the institutional reality smells like committee room coffee. The official reports close one door, but they do not answer the larger cosmic question. They tell us that current UAP cases do not verify alien technology. They do not tell us whether an advanced civilization exists somewhere beyond Earth. To investigate that possibility properly, scientists do not begin with eyewitness stories. They search for signals that can be measured, repeated, and checked by other researchers. What have those searchers actually found? The search for alien technosignatures. To investigate that possibility properly, scientists search for technosignatures. That's just a fancy way of saying footprints made of industrial electronics. But what does a technosignature actually look like? It's not a welcoming greeting transmitted in English. It could be the chemical signature of artificial pollution, like the CFCs in our own atmosphere detected in the spectrum of a distant exoplanet. It could be the immense waste heat radiating from a megastructure, like a Dyson sphere. Or it could be a deliberate, concentrated beam of energy piercing the cosmic dark. The strongest alien evidence in this story isn't a mysterious light. It's the scale of the search conducted when scientists look for that technology directly. The Veritas project teamed up with breakthrough listen-to-point ground-based gamma-ray telescopes at the sky. They weren't looking for radio chatter, they were looking for nanosecond flashes of optical lasers. Why lasers? Because a sufficiently advanced civilization could build a laser powerful enough to outshine its own host star for a fraction of a second, acting as a brilliant interstellar lighthouse. They logged 30 hours of dedicated observations across 136 targets. They also reviewed 249 archival observations covering another 140 targets. That's not a passing glance. That's staring through a microscope until your eyes bleed. And what did they find? No signals consistent with a technosignature. That null result isn't a funeral for the hypothesis, it's an inventory. Saying, these searchers found no matching signal is very different from saying, nobody is home. If you search my kitchen for elephants and find none, you haven't disproven elephants. You've just ruled out elephants in the flour canister. Which would change your mind more? One dramatic video of an unexplained object or a repeatable signal detected by independent observatories? Most people reach for the video because drama feels personal. Science reaches for the receipt because drama can be rendered in After Effects. Another breakthrough listen study cranked the dial differently. They zeroed in on 20 stars, listening across the 3.95 to 8.00 gigahertz radio frequencies. Why there? Because that specific frequency range sits in what astronomers call the quiet zone of the electromagnetic spectrum, largely free from the loudest background static of the galaxy. Think of it like tuning a massive radio across a narrow band, where nature is supposed to be quiet, waiting for someone to clear their throat. They scanned for narrowband signals with specific Doppler drift rates. Basically, they were accounting for the fact that a transmitting planet and a receiving dish are spinning on two different cosmic carousels. If a signal is artificial, its frequency will compress and stretch as the planets rotate and orbit, just like the pitch of an ambulance siren changing as it drives past you. Still nothing. No evidence for radio technosignatures. Direct searches are brutal because they ruin the romance. They specify targets, instruments, frequencies, and detection criteria. This means they can be proven wrong. An eyewitness account is slippery because you can't re-interview a cloud. A radio log is stubborn. Yet neither study directly tests every possible alien technology. If a species communicates by shaking neutrinos, exploiting quantum entanglement, or sculpting magnetic fields, scanning radio waves is like looking for an AM broadcast while the neighborhood uses fiber optics. Furthermore, space is unfathomably vast. Astronomers often point out that if the universe is an ocean, our radio surveys have so far examined the equivalent of a single hot tub of water. That's the honest boundary. These searches didn't fail because the universe is empty. They failed because they were narrow. Saying, "Scientists searched," sounds like a movie scene where everyone nods solemnly in a high-tech control room. In reality, it's grad students waiting for disk writes to finish at 3 a.m. while cold pizza sits on the rack. That boredom is the price of admission. What real alien evidence looks like. Those big dedicated searches came back empty, at least by the standard real labs trust. No confirmed technosignature survived verification, not in the optical stare and not in the radio sweep. The evidence that would finally end this argument wouldn't look like another fuzzy light over a runway. It would be something other labs could measure, test, and then measure again a week later to get the exact same answer. That's exactly where Dr. Michio Kaku draws his line. In a 2025 conversation, he stated he wants reproducible evidence. He wants a result that doesn't vanish when someone else tries to repeat it. He also demands multiple sightings, multiple witnesses, and multiple detection modes. Multiple detection modes is just a plain way of saying we need different kinds of instruments, like eyes, cameras, radar, and infrared, all recording the exact same event at the exact same time. There is a clear staircase here, and his standard helps you see it. An eyewitness account is a starting lead. A single camera gives you a record, but you still have to worry about distance and lens artifacts. Multiple calibrated sensors, meaning instruments whose alignment and timing have been independently checked, can agree on speed and position. Repeatable observations let other teams try again under similar conditions. Then you reach the top step, a physical artifact that qualified laboratories can examine without taking anyone's word for it. That last step changes the entire game. You're no longer arguing about what someone saw in the sky, you're arguing about what a mass spectrometer says on a lab bench. He frames it with the old close encounter language. A close encounter of the first kind is visual observation. A close encounter of the second kind is tangible stuff, an object, an engine, or wreckage left behind. The third kind is a direct encounter with occupants. The mythology loves the second and third kinds, but that love has produced a lot of claims and zero publicly verified artifacts. I am phrasing that carefully on purpose. No publicly verified alien ship or material has cleared independent lab examination. That is very different from saying no one has ever claimed to possess one. What would you accept as decisive proof? A multi-sensor recording, a repeatable signal, or a physical object independently verified as non-human technology? That question matters because each level brings a different burden. If you settle for a single video, parallax can fool you. When you demand hardware, you need more than a shiny fragment held up for a photo. This is exactly why the official investigations sound so deflating. According to NASA's final report, there is no credible evidence that UAPs are extraterrestrial in origin. The report treated UAP as a data problem first, not a visitor problem. AARO reached a similar bottom line. After analyzing decades of cases, the office concluded that none of the investigated cases represented off-world technology. That finding does not prove we are alone in the universe. It just states that under calibrated review, nothing they examined held up as alien tech. And this is where you have to separate excitement from fact. Kaku's real reason for why aliens might visit Earth is not a discovered fact about actual visitors. It is an explanatory hypothesis about motive. If a civilization thousands or millions of years ahead of us could reach us, his suggestion is that they might come out of simple observation or total disregard. That indifference idea is what makes his warning feel colder than any attack scenario. What would actually change that conclusion? Independently examined material you can cut and test. Reproducible measurements where other labs get the same strange result. A transparent chain of custody showing exactly where the object came from. And confirmation by qualified laboratories that have no stake in the outcome. The evidence does not currently justify saying aliens are visiting Earth, but Kaku's warning stays more disturbing than any invasion movie. A civilization able to cross stars might not need us, hate us, or even think we are worth talking to. If the most careful optical and radio sweeps we know how to run have come up empty so far, what happens if the first true signature of someone else is waiting for us to finally ask the right question in the right way? So the real reason aliens might visit Earth, according to Michio Kaku, may not be conquest or friendship. It might be observation, indifference, or nothing at all. AARO has found no verified extraterrestrial technology, and dedicated optical and radio searchers have found no confirmed technosignatures. What evidence would convince you? A multi-sensor recording or physical hardware? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe.